Welcome to Jurassic Jail. In this video I'm going to show you how much room you don't technically need for all the creatures in the game and demonstrate just how large the big square maps really are. This park has all 106 species in the game, totaling 263 individual creatures. Before I show you the detail of every enclosure, a little groundwork first. I built this in Sandbox on the square tropical map. The settings I have shown here, but essentially escapes and comforts are turned on. Most of the gameplay elements of regular player off, with storms set to frequent. Building with these settings is not difficult. It's just time consuming. The park isn't pretty, at all, but it's functioning, and it's 5 stars. Let's run through the layout overall. I started with herbivores and went from small through medium and to large before moving on to the carnivores, then marine reptiles in their lagoons, and finishing with the flying species in their aviaries. Each species has its own enclosure. All of its comforts needs are met within them. To enable the best use of space, and due to the main idea of this park being how much room does everything take up, I set up the DNA for each species in the same way. Skins at random, health and combat genetics set to 0% by modifying the chances in either direction as appropriate. The social traits were all set to maximum. Those social traits meant all the herbivores were happy with the 2x2 maximum fence length enclosure until I got to the Stegosaurus. Obviously they need a little extra, as you can see. 3x2 hit the spot. The rest were fine until the sauropods, unsurprisingly. 5x3 for the Alamosaurus, 3x3 for the Apato, Camara, Mamenchisaurus, 4x3 for the Brachii and the Dreadnoughtus. The Dippy only needs 3x2, and the Theri was a lovely surprise at only needing 2x2, but I'm happy as long as she is. Now we're on to the carnivores, which were always going to be different. The small ones are happy with the 2x2, as you can see. The extra small, the Coelophysis and the Compies, happy with half of that. The only one I actually had trouble with was the Morrison Trepidus, until we get to the Indoraptor. It kept forgetting that it had food and water, so that's why there's 2 feeders in that enclosure. The rest were all happy as Larry in their little 2x2s without a hint of trouble. Moving on to the piscivores, the baryonyx and the sucos are happy with the 2x2, but that Spinosaurus needs more room to stretch with a 3x2, as you can see. The medium-sized carnivores are much the same as the small ones, as it turns out, until you hit the Indoraptor. The Indoraptor decided eventually to start climbing fences. The fences were level 5, he's level 6, so it's understandable, but still, something I could have done without. Another ring of level 6 invisible fence has seemed to put a stop to that. The only other one in the medium group is the Scorpius Rex. It needs a little bit more room with a 3x2. As you can see, not a hint of a problem, just dozing away in the corner of his enclosure, perfectly happy and content. And then we move on to the large carnivores. Obviously they take up more room, but not actually that much. The Carcharodontosaurus and the Giga don't mind 2x2. The Rex fancies a little more with a 3x2, and the Acro and the Indom both a touch more than that with a 2x4. And as you can see, the Indominus has a little extra security, which I'm going to have to explain. The Indom was my first problem dinosaur. It's aggressive, so despite the genes being humble, tolerant and social, he kept headbutting the level 5 fences. I decided to add the level 6 invisible fence in small pieces around the inside of the enclosure, and it appears to have helped. Moving on to the marine creatures, as you can see, the Ichthyosaurus, the Plesiosaurus and the Styxosaurus all happy with 2 lagoons. They're Lipurodon, Attenborosaurus, Elasmosaurus, Kronosaurus and Tylosaurus all needed just the 3. Then the Mosasaur, needing to stand out from the rest, had to have 4. God forbid it was any smaller than that. The Flyers next, almost half of them needing just 1 dome, the rest needing 2, but you'll notice the Quetz here actually has 3. It escaped during a storm, and after being returned decided it didn't like its 2-dome home. Adding a 3rd obviously solved that, but keep that in mind, with comfort turned on, it's sometimes a balancing act of environmental needs versus area requirements. And yes, it was at 100%, but the little bit of red on one of those bars can cause problems with health, if you have that in the game mode you're playing, obviously. Now with that all out of the way, let's turn our attention to this map. As you can see, I created this part with function not form in mind, and let's face it, it looks awful. I know it does, and that was semi-intentional. The reason is because of this. Look how big this is. I've got every creature possible in this park, and I have half the map to spare. I don't know about anybody else, but in regular play I have a tendency to make enclosures a little on the big side versus their requirements. But with this square map, it's perfectly okay to do that. I could build a proper park in that empty half and just move things over bit by bit as I built. My point is, this game gives you this possibility. It gives you all this space. Now I know making a park can be difficult if you don't have a plan or an idea of where to start, and I'd suggest watching one of the videos by Evolution Square for help with that. If I remember, I'll add a card link in the corner. But I hope this video gives you an idea of how much space you don't actually need when adding these animals. Don't go overboard, don't be afraid to waste space. There's plenty of it if you're on the right map, obviously. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to be back with more content very soon.